guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as this is the month of August. That means Alex is not here. I'm joined by my co-host who has come across time and space from the wonderful land of New Jersey.
It's Ken from This Anime.
Yay! That's right. We are here back here on TWIG. It has been a interesting summer, to say the very least, here on the show. And not all of it great, actually. So I kind of want to talk about something a little bit serious. And I was debating about talking about this even kind of at all. But at the same time, I had something pretty serious happen to me last week. So I was coming home from a local sporting event, and this sporting event ended pretty late at night, like 11:30 midnight. So I stopped off to get a slice of pizza before I went home, as I hadn't had a real kind of dinner yet. And normally Guelph is pretty safe and it's a good place to be. And where I live is a fairly nice neighborhood. It's up in the suburbs. It's about as boring and bland as you can possibly get. But somebody tried to jump me. I was coming home and somebody approached me. They turned around when they saw I was alone. They started walking at me. Now, I wear a headlamp, which is like a miner's flashlight on my head. And I turned around and I looked at this guy, and he kept trying to stand in shadow. So he was about 15 to 20 feet away from me. And I see him fiddling around in his pocket. So I dialed 911. And I give the physical description. They're like cops, fire, or ambulance. And I'm like, cops. They're like, why? I'm being followed. And I start giving the description of this dude. He hears me on the phone and he just books it in the other direction. And I had asked for police assistance. I didn't get it. That's because they were quote unquote busy that night. And that's no fault necessarily of the Guelph police service. I mean, if they've got something more important to do, I get it. Fortunately, my wife Blair was only literally like a minute and a half down the street. So she got to me super quick. She drove her car down and she escorted me home the rest of the way. And that really shook the hell out of me. That's the first time I've really felt vulnerable in a number of years since becoming disabled. And it's made me hyper vigilant. I haven't really been sleeping great. I've actually talked to a few people about this, Ken included. And evidently I may have PTSD. So that's fun. Fortunately, I do have an appointment with a counselor in just about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we're gonna talk about what happened to me. But yeah, that was sort of the big event that happened during my week, and it kind of overtook everything. So a lot of like you, JT, Aaron, and Alex were like, you need to practice some self-care this week. So don't do anything. Just go play some video games, go play with your toys. Just don't think about this thing. We'll deal with it when we get to it. Because me and Ken were supposed to record an episode of Loose Cannon this week on some anime movies, which we've moved to next week. And the reason that got moved, because I'm 99% sure I saw the guy on Friday morning when I was coming home from volunteering down at the food bank, which is kind of funny because I had just come from a meeting with a member of the Guelph police on an unrelated issue. So, yeah, that really rattled my cage something fierce. So I guess, long story short, folks, if you're going to be out late at night, make sure you're always aware. Don't wear your headphones. And I'm not saying have your phone automatically dialed to 911, but always be aware of your surroundings. I talked to a police friend of mine the following morning, and he said, you didn't make yourself a victim. You played this as smart as you possibly could have, and you did the right thing. You didn't escalate the situation, but I now have precautions in place, and I feel a lot safer than what I did about a week ago. So, yeah, that has been my week. So good luck topping that, Ken.
Most of my week has been knee deep in Baldur's Gate 3.
Good times.
Because this is literally the ultimate D&D sim. It just is. And I'm playing a Vengeance Paladin, aka the Lawful Neutral Paladin.
Ooh. See,
So
I'm really interested to get into that game because I play a private D&D game with a couple of friends of mine, and I've really gotten into the monk class. So I'd be really curious to see if all my tricks that work in the books, would they work here?
most of them will.
That's amazing. That's one of the things I love about Dungeons and Dragons, where functionally, if you are stupid at math, D&D will make you really good at it, because you learn the system of min-maxing, which isn't most creative thing for storytelling. Like, I know one of the advice a very good friend of mine has given to me is be more than a stat block, but sometimes it's fun to go in there and kick Conan's ass. But yeah, like Baldur's Gate looks amazing.
It is as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Like you can really go super heavy detail into your encounters and even just your conversations and how you're looking at a problem. You can split the party up however the heck you want. And you could have someone conversing with a character, and then the rogue is right behind them stealing from them.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the online kind of discourse about this game saying it's going to change things.
Yeah, it is the most beautiful, like legitimately is the most beautiful game I've seen in the last like 5 years.
Wow, yeah,
I'm running it 4K. I can run it 4K max settings.
Oh wow.
On my 3080, and it runs pretty well. It hovers around like 45 FPS, but it's not the kind of game that 60 FPS is a mandatory thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just gorgeous. Like you look at the character model. You look at your character model and you go like, that is the prettiest character. And it just, and it also scales really well too. Like when like if I got a video on another monitor and I'm playing the game, I can just lower it down to 1440 and have the video playing, and it works fine, no hiccups whatsoever. Because again, the game is pretty graphically intensive. If I were to run it at 4K, it'd be using all my GPU power, and I need it to play the video, so it's kind of like gonna lower that down a tad so the video doesn't chug like a motherfucker, or the game chugs like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things I may pick up for myself in September when it gets ported to PlayStation 5, because I am a console guy and I always will be.
It runs beautifully on controller.
See, that's got my attention. The fact that I don't have to worry about all this keyboard and mouse bullshit, I'm so into.
Movement is so much better on controller. I've just played with controller. Like, movement is so much better on controller.
That's awesome to hear. For myself in gaming this week, I've actually been playing a lot of StarCraft 2, as I mentioned, I think last week. I finished Heart of the Swarm last week. Man, I wish I stuck with like StarCraft. So I'm into StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Now I've just cleared the initial missions. And I found out there's like a post campaign. There's like, they're called Covert Ops with Nova, who's like this Terran ghost character. So I don't know anything that's happened. Like, I somehow managed to keep myself in the dark for like 10 years with this stuff. So kind of awesome to experience this through new eyes. And it's really making me regret that I don't have any of my StarCraft toys anymore. I used to have at one time. I had the Terran Marine. I had the Zerg Hydralisk. I think I had the Protoss Zealot, but I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I did. So I looked up how much these figures would cost. Like, hey, I'd be curious to get a Terran Marine. I'm not paying that. I'd much rather have a really awesome Transformer that actually does things. So yeah, that was kind of awesome. Other than that, I started watching The Boys on Amazon. I just finished the first season. I've been watching that with my wife, Blair. That show is really good.
It just really gets better and better.
Yeah.
It just gets better and better.
Yeah, like it's honestly one of those very, very, very pleasant surprises. I know I'm years late to the party, but that means that I can binge, which is kind of cool. I'm also going to get into Invincible once I finish this. That, and I've watched. Oh yeah, so one of the things I did during the pandemic is I've watched every single episode of Hell's Kitchen. I've seen every single episode of MasterChef. And I've discovered this year, I think I've seen every single U.S. episode of Hotel Hell and Kitchen Nightmares. I'm running out of Gordon Ramsay to watch. So that's sad because it's so weird. He is my spirit animal, not because he's an angry man, but
he's
watching
an angry man on U.S. television.
Yeah, but there's something about it it's very calming to me. Like, I really enjoy watching him try to get the best out of people, and I know it's obviously played for dramatic effect, and that's just how television is.
Television is, yeah.
But I just had a really, really good time with his stuff. I also watched his stuff on Discovery. There's stuff on Disney Plus with him. Yep. There was a show where he went around the world and he would go to where all the Vikings live, and he'd be like, okay, I'm going to go source all these local ingredients. I'm going to see if I can cook better than a local. And it was really, really awesome.
I think that was his Nat Geo show.
Yeah.
He actually released a cookbook of all the stuff that he did on the show, I think.
Oh, that's so cool. Like, honestly, I would love to spend time with Gordon Ramsay just to talk with him, just to hear some of his stories and wisdom. There was another thing he did, and I watched this last year. It was Gordon Ramsay on cocaine, and not that, but he was talking about how the cocaine traffic works and all that stuff. And he had people test his restaurants and they found something. And he's like, this is not happening in my restaurant. No frigging way. And it was just so eye-opening. And I don't know, I think he's one of the best television presenters I've ever watched. And some of the people on MasterChef, I like the douchebag Joe. Ron, I can take him or kind of leave him. But everything else, like, I love his presence. Just, I love Gordon Ramsay. If he ever comes up on Cameo, I'm pretty sure I would die just to, like, hey, Mike, I thank you for being a fan sort of thing. And I randomly marathon a show with my wife, Naked and Afraid. I've seen every single episode of that too, except for the Naked and Afraid and in Love, because that's stupid. But everything else I thoroughly enjoy. My favorite guys being EJ and Jeff. I love certain bits of reality TV. I'm a weird guy like that. But anyway, so coming up on the show this week, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got to talk about a very famous person in the film industry has passed away. We got to talk about some stuff that's happening with unions. A show's been dropped off of Disney's things. We got to talk about a massive theft in the geek community. But we're also going to talk about some reviews. We're going to be taking a look at the Mission Impossible Steelbooks from our friends over at Paramount Home Entertainment. We're also going to be taking a look at some Dinobots that have been released by our friends over at Hasbro. And we're going to be taking a look at something which I promise you're going to see on TWIG before the end of the year. And this is the Field Guide to Action and Adventure by Renegade Game Studios, the crossover between Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, Transformers. If you were a fan of Terrible Warriors and me mismashing Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and Friday the 13th and other crap, somehow somebody made this official. And it's amazing, and I love it. There's a preview. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a small break here, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Ken from This Anime. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. The man you're looking at is Alexander Golitsyn, an attaché at our embassy in Prague. He is also a traitor. Your mission, Jim, should you choose to accept it, is to obtain photographic proof of the theft, shadow Golitsyn to his buyer, and apprehend them both. I've already dispatched a team selected from your usual group.
Good morning, IMF agents. It is I, Mike the Birdman. I'm here to talk about something really cool we got from our friends over at Paramount Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the Steelbooks for the Mission Impossible series. That's Mission Impossible 1, Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible 3, Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible 5, Rogue Nation, and finally Mission Impossible 6, Fallout. I have been in love with the Mission Impossible series all the way since the 90s. I remember seeing this on opening night in high school, the adventures of Ethan Hunt and his team of IMF agents as they go around the world to stop terrorists, bioweapons, Superman in one movie. And it's, really, really awesome just to see the Mission Impossible franchise still going today. In fact, you can go see Dead Reckoning in theaters right now. So it's really cool to see these movies again in 4K. I watched the first one the other day, and I was surprised just how good it looked. The colors are nice, deep, rich, and black. I love it. It's vivid. It's loud. And these discs do not suffer for lack of special features. There is a crap ton across each and every single one. That being said, there's nothing really new here. This is the same 4K discs you've seen for a while, but now they're in Steelbook packaging. Is that a reason to not buy them? Well, if you already have them, well, you already got them. But if you don't, this is a fantastic time to jump on the Mission Impossible train. Like, this is one of those action franchises that just continually keeps getting better. Are some movies better than other ones? Yes. I mean, not everything can be as awesome as the first one. A lot of people like Ghost Protocol. My favorite one is probably the first two, and I know not a lot of people like to, but I kind of like that song from Mission Impossible 2 by Metallica. That probably says a lot about my personality. But that being said, these are wonderful discs to see in 4K. Plus, you are getting a Blu-ray. You're getting every piece of supplemental content that's ever been released. Plus, you're also getting this really cool IMF decal sticker that says Impossible Mission Force. Now, obviously, the Secretary would disavow you if you decide to show you're actually a part of the IMF force, so, we're just going to disregard that little bit of a lore detail. That being said, kind of trying to figure a way to mount one of these to my wheelchair so it doesn't get all kind of weather disturbed, because this is kind of awesome. That's something I'm glad Paramount's been doing. When I reviewed the Transformer set last month that also came in Steelbook, they had this really awesome Autobot decal that came in there too. So I like the little extras they give you, especially these little cheap extras that are like stickers and decals and patches and stuff like that. I have a lot of fun with that. So can I recommend the Mission Impossible movies on 4K and Steelbook? Yeah. Honestly, if you love over-the-top action, if you love these outrageous stunts that happen, and if you've ever wanted to learn more about how these movies are made and just what kind of goes into them, then yeah, you're going to learn a lot from these special features. So ultimately, I can 100% tell you this is a mission you're going to accept. Mission Impossible on Steelbook to every single one. 1, 2, 3, Ghost Protocol, Fallout, Rogue Nation, you name it. It's here. It's worthwhile. This review will now self-destruct in 5 seconds.
As always, should you or any member of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions. This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. That's Ken. You just heard from me. All right, guys, so we got a lot of stuff to cover in the news this week here on the Nerd News Network, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So our first story comes courtesy of Variety.com, and unfortunately, we're going to start things on a bit of a down note. William Friedkin, the Exorcist director, has died at the age of 87. Director William Friedkin, best known for his Oscar-winning The French Connection and the blockbuster The Exorcist, died on Monday in Los Angeles. He was 87 years old. His death was confirmed by Chapman University Dean Stephen Galloway, a friend of Friedkin's wife, Sherry Lansing. His final film, The Kane Mutiny Court Martial, starring Kiefer Sutherland, is set to premiere at the Venice Film Festival, along with, I can't pronounce this name, Peter
Bogdanovich, Francis Ford Coppola, and Hal Ashby.
Yes, Friedkin rose to A-list status in the 1970s as part of a new generation of vibrant, risk-taking filmmakers, combining his experience in television, particularly in documentary film, with a cutting-edge style in editing. Friedkin brought a great deal of energy to the horror and police thriller genres in which he specialized. The French Connection was an incredibly fast-paced and morally ambiguous tale shot in documentary style and containing one of cinema's most justifiably famous car chase sequences. Connection won several Oscars, including Best Picture, Director, and Actor for Gene Hackman, and became a touchstone for the police genre films and television for years to come, which I actually haven't seen The French Connection. I really should.
It's harder to find because specifically the easy thing with the French Connection to find, that's an edited version. Because Disney got a hold of the French Connection and edited it.
Oh, weird. I'm presuming there's like a Criterion collection, maybe?
Yeah, and it's out of print, so it's a little more expensive.
Of course. After the critical glory of the French Connection came 1973's The Exorcist, which gained an astounding $500 million worldwide. And along with The Godfather, initiated the blockbuster era in motion pictures. Adapted from William Peter Blatty's novel about the demonic possession of a young girl, The Exorcist was a heavily serialized thriller and influential on the horror genre, as Connection has been with cop thrillers. It brought him the second Oscar nomination as Best Director. Friedkin started in the mailroom of Chicago television station WGN, where he quickly rose to the directing television shows and documentaries. He said he directed about 2,000 TV shows during those early years, including a 1962 documentary, The People versus Paul Crump, about the rehabilitation of a man on death row. It won him a Golden Gate Award at the San Francisco Film Festival and led to a job to him leading the documentary division at WBKB and subsequently a gig directing documentaries for producer David L. Wolper. In the mid-1960s, he left documentaries behind, hoping to break out into feature filmmaking. He directed an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which is amazing, before he got his break when producer Stephen Brody hired him to direct pop music story Good Times, starring Sonny and Cher in 1967. It's the cutting-edge style like that of the films of contemporary Richard Lester. Gave the movie some flash. On the strength of that movie, Friedkin was hired for The Night They Raided Minsky's, a nostalgic piece centered around the world of burlesque that Friedkin imbued with a fresh modern look via the camera work and editing. He segued into two rather stage-bound vehicles with an adaptation of Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party and Matt Crowley's The Boys in the Band. Neither was the portent of what was to come. In 1971, when he directed The French Connection, and 1973's highly stylized horror film Exorcist, which was yet another departure for Friedkin. Then it just kind of goes on about its background. The only movie I've ever seen of his is The Exorcist, which as a child, that movie scared the shit out of me because of the editing. There's one sequence where there's like a strobe like effect, and you see, I guess, Pazuzu or something. And there's like this face.
Yeah, so you watched the director's cut version.
Yeah. And I think I saw that. I must have been in grade 7 or 8. I remember renting it on VHS at the time. And it's funny because I read the novel, I think either before or afterwards, because I found it in my uncle's closet, not his porn collection. But I found a really beaten up copy of The Exorcist, and I had never read anything like that before. It was one of the first horror novels I ever read. I mean, I'd read some Stephen King. I would read some Lovecraft in high school, but I never read anything quite like this. And then seeing the movie brought to life, I'm thinking, I think the book did this a little bit better, but I'm thinking this movie's really, really good. And with the French Connection, I've always seen the famous car chase. I've seen Gene Hackman in, the black hat and the overcoat where he looks very, hurried. And it's just one of those things I've just never got around to seeing. But I guess now that he's unfortunately passed away, I should really fill that gap in my filmography, because thanks to people like you, Ken, and people like Alex and Aaron, I'm always wanting to expand my cinematic horizons, and whenever Liam comes over, we'll watch bad horror movies, but occasionally he'll show me like a really good war movie or a documentary. Like I like to think honestly, a lot of my filmmaking consumption is, I know horror movies and I know action movies pretty well, but when it comes to other stuff of a little bit more substance, I'm a little weaker in those regards. And I don't mind being educated, because that's the only way I'm ever going to grow. Sometimes, I can seek stuff out, but if I have someone to be my teacher and guide during things, much with you and the anime stuff you show me, I learn a lot about the world of filmmaking and cinema as a whole.
Yeah, The Exorcist is I consider it one of the gateway movies that I had with horror. Because I saw that back when I was in high school still, and I was a pirating maniac because I was a high schooler. I didn't have the money to spend on stuff. And I sat, and I was also suffering from insomnia. So it was just like, well, I might as well just watch a bunch of horror films and go to bed afterwards. And The Exorcist chilled me to the bone. It is still up there as one of my favorite and scariest horror films of all time. And it gets scarier as an adult, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
because
especially
as an adult, when you start to have like these, because it's so about the effects of faith and lack of faith or losing your faith, that actually really hits home as an adult.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing some of the deleted scenes for The Exorcist thinking, wow, this could have been so much more fucked up than what it could have been.
To be fair, the production of that movie was a little... There were some screwed up things that happened on that set.
Yeah.
Not to mention the many people that died on set.
Yeah, like honestly, folks, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go look up the behind the scenes behind The Exorcist. And while you're at it, look up and see what happened during the production of The Omen as well.
Oh, that one's another good one.
Yeah, like
crazy behind the scenes stories.
Yeah, like anything from the 1970s and horror movies that isn't like George A. Romero stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of really dark and fucked up things about it. And I understand there's a new Exorcist movie coming out fairly soon, actually.
Yep, it's coming out, I think, the week before Halloween.
Okay.
Or the week of Halloween.
And that's the guy who did the Halloween movies recently?
Yes, it is the guy who did the Halloween trilogy that came out in the last couple of years. I don't have faith in it because I didn't like his Halloween trilogy all that much. Mm-hmm. And like Michael Myers is my horror icon. Like out of all the horror pantheon characters, like he's my big guy. Mm-hmm. So it felt very wounding.
Yeah,
to watch some of those.
Yeah, like I've often made the joke on Twitter at the end of Halloween Ends. Sorry, folks, you've had a year by now. When Michael Myers dies and gets chucked into a garbage compactor, I really picture everybody in Haddonfield just kind of standing around. A moment of silence passes. Laurie Strode goes, "So, who wants Bennigan's?" And everybody just walks away because how do you deal with that, right? It's like evil dies tonight. But I want hush puppies. It's so dumb. Now, and it's weird. I like the first one a lot. Halloween Kills, yeah. I hated that, and then I rewatched it again a couple more times, one under an influence, and I honestly came to like it a lot more as time has gone on, but it's still not great, and Halloween Ends gets worse with each progressive watch. Like it's almost like somebody took the script to that movie, rewrote it in like pig Latin, and then wiped barbecue sauce over it, and then ran that through their jeans in the washing machine and said, "Here, shoot this. By the way, we roll camera in 15 minutes." Like it's bad.
The way I like to call it, it's My Friend Michael the Serial Killer.
Yeah, My Dinner with Michael Myers. It's so dumb. Like, just don't fuck up this Exorcist shit, guy.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be a trilogy.
Oh boy,
of Exorcist movies. Oh boy,
not everything needs a sequel, and that's the thing. Like, I have never seen The Exorcist 2. I've never seen Exorcist 3.
Exorcist 3 is actually. Exorcist 3 is actually generally good. Exorcist 2 will hurt your soul, but it's one of those like bad horror movies that can be enjoyable.
See, I think that's something Ken, maybe you, me, and Enrique and his buddy David should do as a loose canon. That would be kind of fun. I'll run the idea past and say, "Hey guys, let's talk about the Exorcist movie, the Exorcist films before they come out." So yeah, that'll be something I'm gonna put a pin in for right now. So moving on to our next. Oh, sorry.
Freaking has one more film out. He's he's got a film premiering at the Venice Film Festival, which is in like 2-3 weeks, something like that.
So yeah, it's fairly soon. It's before TIFF. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, hey, one last hurrah.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. So moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of vulture.com, though this has been reported by multiple outlets. Overworked and underpaid.
For the record, this is the post that the union actually linked to. So just FYI.
So I've heard this called on CNN and other outlets as the summer of hot labor. Overworked and underpaid, VFX workers vote to unionize at Marvel. Call it the Hollywood Labor Organization of Avengers Assemble on the heels of more than a year's worth of damning disclosures around Marvel Studios' systematic overworking and underpayment of visual effects workers on its blockbuster movies and streaming series. VFX crews at Marvel have finally petitioned to demand union recognition from the studio. On Monday, a group of more than 50 employees filed a petition for an election to be represented by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees with the National Labor Relations Board. The workers are asking for the election to be held as early as August 21st, so next week. This marks the first time visual effects professionals have banded together to demand the same rights, wage protection, and professional watchdog oversight enjoyed by workers in almost every other segment of the entertainment industry. The supermajority of Marvel's 52-member on-set and post-production crews signed authorization cards to indicate they wish to be represented by the powerful labor union representing some 170,000 artisans, technicians, stagehands, and craftspeople across TV, film, and live theater in the United States and Canada. Quote, for almost half a century, workers in the visual effects industry have been denied the same protections and benefits their co-workers and crewmates have relied upon since the beginning of the Hollywood film industry. VFX organizers for that same organization, IATSE, Mark Patz, said in a statement, this is a, quote, historic first for the visual effects workers coming together with a collective voice demanding respect for what we do. In the era where around 90% of films release in varying stages of VFX fine-tuning, and it's not uncommon for a show like Stranger Things to showcase up to 4,400 visual effects shots across a single season. Workers within the field have remained I can't pronounce this. Stubbornly confoundingly unrepresented. I know. And here we are again. By any professional union or guild, while fellow below-the-line workers in such divisions such as costume, wardrobe, hair and makeup, lighting, props, paint, script supervision have been historically championed by IATSE. Underappreciated VFX professionals have been unable to claim benefits such as paid overtime and healthcare and have been at the mercy of pronounced labor shortages and managers' unrealistic deadlines, despite the workers' increasingly indispensability within popular culture. Quote, turnaround times don't apply to us, protected hours don't apply to us, and pay equity doesn't apply to us, said visual effects coordinator Bella Huffman. Quote, visual effects must be a sustainable and safe department for everyone who suffered far too long, for all newcomers who need to know they won't be exploited. Then the article goes into a lot of detail. I'm just going to say that I thought they had a union.
No, they do not.
Oh, shit. Honestly, if every Marvel show and Stranger Things and like Transformers, whatever.
At this point, there is a breaking point when it comes to the visual effects and unions. Like I saw this coming a mile away, and if this small team at Marvel, who is just like mostly supervisors and whatnot, if they're unionizing, chances are everyone else is going to unionize pretty damn quickly. As long as this goes through in the next couple of weeks,
I hope
it probably will, because literally everyone signed on to get the voting for the union. So probably yes.
Like, that's insane that they don't have the same protections that do this. I mean, like, there is you look at
the end credits of any movie. How much of the credits is the visual effects?
Yeah,
at least half.
Yeah, like, it's insane to think these guys don't have that. And like holy shit, guys. Like, I also heard this other thing, I think it was like on the radio the other day, they were talking about the strike between, the writers and the actors and all this thing. They're like, you know what, guys, not every movie has to be a $300 million Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or $200 million, $300 million The Flash. You can make smaller movies. You can do that, and you can pay people fair and equitable wage. Like, not everybody needs to be David Zaslav from WB. Not everybody needs to be Bob Iger from Disney. Like, guys, what do? You sit in a boardroom. I'm sorry, you're not the visual effects supervisor who's tweaking.
Ironically, these are the people that are pushing for AI. AI is going to take your job first.
Yeah, because honestly, I'd rather have a decision. Like, honestly, the business guys look at math. I'm sorry, Bob Iger. I'm going to trust Skynet over you because it can do math you can't even comprehend. Like, they're going to be able to identify so much more than, well, I don't think that's going to sell. Based on what, Bob? What do you know, Bob? I'm sorry, Dave. Fuck off.
This has literally been part of, like, these executives and this mentality have been in Hollywood for decades.
It's disgusting.
If not the last century. Like, It is ridiculous. It is to the whim of a small group of people that anything gets made in the first place.
Yeah, and it's weird.
A lot of creatives are getting sick of it. And especially when they're getting paid like ass.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, why anybody would want to work at, ILM or to work for Greg Nicotero at his VFX workshop. Like, sure, it sounds awesome, but you're not going to get paid what you're worth.
You talk to any visual effects artist that's in the biz right now. They have worked in multiple locations constantly. Like, they constantly change positions in multiple areas, and it depends on the it depends on the group, but I know there are visual effects artists that have worked for ILM. They've worked for
Stan Winston, probably.
Stan Winston. They've worked for all these different people, and they just keep job hopping. And the idea of having a union, that'll keep people in the visual effects houses and staying there.
Yeah,
most likely.
Yeah, honestly, I'd rather have someone I know who's stable leading a really good team of artists and is willing to bring new people in rather than having some guy jumping from job to job to job when they're worrying about can they keep their apartment or keep their house. I'm sorry, the David Zaslavs and Bob Igers of the world don't need millions upon millions of dollars bonuses for profit for the shareholders. And without these guys, you don't have a product. So here's an idea.
One of the best examples of this was the first of the big breaking points that I think visual effects is history is going to look at this point and go, this is when things started to form with the unions. And it's the visual effects studio that did Life of Pi.
Mm-hmm.
You know what happened to that studio? They won the Oscar and they went bankrupt. Literally a week after they won the Oscar. How does that fucking work?
I know, right? It's insane. And just to think about the amount of work that goes into something. So the next time you watch a movie and you realize how beautiful something looks on screen. I know for me, when I was watching the Transformers movies recently for review, and watching how all the visual parts work, like seeing all the little gears and everything, someone had to make that. That's an insane amount of work for something you're never going to notice. Only dorks like me are ever going to see that. These people deserve to be fairly compensated. They deserve to be fairly represented, and they deserve job security. I'm sorry, I don't need a corporate person in a suit. I need the guy who's in the workshop doing it each and every single day. I need the guy who's sitting at the workstation making sure Spider-Man looks cool, or the person making sure Batman's armor looks the way that it should. That's what I want. I don't need a Bob Iger. I'm more okay with supporting someone like a Kevin Feige to get something done, or Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni, I would support more than, because like, as much as I love Kevin's great. Kevin has always been an executive person. He is just a creative executive that knows where to be creative and where to be money oriented.
Yeah, like we need less Igers and Zaslavs and more people like, Filoni in the world, and we need good people working at these visual effects houses, and they need to have as much security as anybody else in the film industry. So this strike's going to get ugly still. I hope these guys unionize, and I hope this changes Hollywood.
I mean, the strikes are back to the negotiating table as of this week, so
we'll wait and see. Although supposedly they are
probably
oceans apart.
Yeah, probably not going to happen until at minimum
the fall.
I think the two people that are going to push it the most are Warner Brothers and Disney. Those are the two companies that have everything riding on this. Because if they can't get their big shit out this year, they're in trouble.
Yeah, like honestly, I hope the Marvels is done, guys, and I know they're still talking about reshoots for Aquaman 2. We'll wait and see.
That has been doing reshoots
for like 2 years.
There has been 5 rounds of reshoots for that movie.
Like, my God, like
it's just release it because it's gonna bomb.
Yeah, like honestly,
to be honest, it's gonna bomb.
Like
we all know it's gonna bomb.
Like it's something we're gonna talk about on Sunday Funnies with like JT. I'm sure before the end of the month. What the hell is wrong with DC right now? I mean, sure, the characters are cool, the stories are great, but every time you put something out, something goes wrong. Unless it's animated, it sucks. But we'll talk about that. So moving on to our next story. This is kind of a grab bag. Me and Ken are just kind of rap about this. But IGN.com gives its report. Pokemon Presents August 2023. Everything announced. I'm just gonna kind of go through this kind of fast. So, Pokemon Path to the Peak is a new animated series focused on the trading card game. At the start of the event, we got a first look at the Pokemon Path to the Peak, a new animated short series focusing on the official Pokemon trading card game. The new animated series will premiere at the Pokemon World Champions, which will air later this week, which has already happened. The first episode you can watch on the official Pokemon YouTube channel, which is actually quite charming, I might say.
It's very good, and it does a lot of great things. I love the fact that it's a generational thing, that the cards are her mom's and then the dad helps her out near the end of it episode. It's cute. It's cute.
Yeah, it's really cute. And then Detective Pikachu gets a new trailer. We already kind of knew this. The game comes out on October 6th rather, on the Nintendo Switch. We should get a review copy here at Twig. I should be covering it because Alex said as long as he gets whatever, I get every Pokemon game until the end of time. I'm holding him to that. I loved Detective Pikachu, the movie. He reviewed the first game. I think it was his first game he actually did for Twig. So I'm looking forward to trying this now that I'm really into Pokemon. So it looks cool. Pokemon Horizons, the series, is, quote, coming soon. We got a first look at Pokemon Horizons, the series. Well, not much was shared. We do know it will be set in the Paldea region based on the Pokemon that appeared in that series. A release date has not been announced, but we do know it is, quote, coming soon, according to the Pokemon Company. My guess
quote,
is...
unquote, whenever Netflix gets around to actually putting it on their fucking schedule.
Pretty much, yeah. Pokemon Go is getting Paldea region monsters next month. So, like, the starters for, like, Sword, we'll probably see stuff from, like, Scarlet.
Paldea is Scarlet and Violet.
All right, Scarlet and Violet. So, we'll see those guys. I'm really looking forward to that, and more stuff that will make me go... If you're region locked, I swear to God. Another thing that is really cool, and this is happening if you are a Nintendo Switch Online owner, you get the Pokemon trading card game and Pokemon Stadium 2 are available on the Nintendo Switch right now. Mew and Mewtwo are coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Get your Mew now.
Yep. Yep. If you use the mystery code Get Your Mew, it'll have a random Terra type, which I still don't know how that works. But that's really cool. Mewtwo comes into raids, a Terra raid, I think at the end of the month or the beginning of September.
Beginning of September.
Yep, September 1st. Pokemon Paldea Winds is a new animated web series coming September 6th. We got our first look at Pokemon Paldean Winds, a new anime series set in the Paldea region. Much like the games, it is based on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Paldea Winds will focus on a student who wants to become a Pokemon trainer. No shit.
I mean, the Paldean Winds is a sequel to Twilight Winds, which was the series the short series they did for Sword and Shield. And those were spectacular. And this is the anime team that's doing these. So it is they're just gorgeous. They're gorgeous pieces. Every single one of them were just gorgeous in Twilight Winds. Paldean Winds is like looking about the same level of quality. And these shorts are like 5 minutes at most, 5-6 minutes. But they're absolutely spectacular. Can't wait to actually watch these when they come out.
And then finally, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's first DLC arrives next month. We got an extended look at the expansion pack and a look at new gameplay for the Teal Mask, the first of 2 paid DLC expansions coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The presentation introduced 2 new characters and confirmed those that play the expansion will have a chance to catch a handful of new Pokemon not already available in the base game for Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but the Teal Mask arrives on September 13th exclusively for the Nintendo Switch. I'm really looking forward to this.
Also, they just dropped yesterday at Worlds. They dropped another trailer, kind of showcasing some other Pokemon that you're going to see in the expansion. We got a little more better look at Raiko's
Paradox form or whatever it is.
Paradox form, as well as Cabalion's Paradox form, and they also announced that all the starters will be available in Scarlet and Violet.
Oh, very nice.
DLC. So
which is awesome.
So all the starters are going to be available to have, which is awesome. Wasn't that way in Sword and Shield. It was really weird. Don't know.
Now, one of the things I've been doing, because I play a lot of Pokemon Go, which if you follow me in Guelph, you know this. I pay for Pokemon Home, which is like $3 a month, and I can transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go into the console games. That's how I'm filling out my decks in Pokemon Scarlet right now. And I always, like, if it's a 96 or above and I catch it and I've got extras, it goes right into the console games. So I've been kicking ass with my team. And it's kind of amazing to do this. Although I need to find someone who has Pokemon Violet to trade me the Pokemon that I'm missing.
I mean, I could give you those mons pretty easily.
We are going to be talking after the show, Ken, because I need to get this dex completed.
I need your help to get one mon, because it's stupid. It's one of those stupid evos that you have to have. You have to be with a friend in the. It's one of the dumb evolution methods.
Which one do you need? Do you know?
I need the dolphin, which I have to level up a dolphin when someone else is in my game.
That's so dumb. I guess
know.
We're doing it together.
It's the only mon. It's the only mon that I have missing on my decks.
Yes, folks, you heard it here. We're Pokemon dorks. But yeah, like, honestly, I'm really looking forward to this. And I was actually saying this to somebody today, one of my best friends, Jordan, here in Guelph. I was saying there's something about, like, I'm 41, 42. I don't know. I was born in 1981. You do the math. I'm starting to reconnect with a lot of the things I really enjoyed in high school. And a lot of that was Pokemon and Transformers. I had a friend of mine named Ryan. I'm not friends with him anymore. Don't worry. He's not dead that I'm aware of. We're just not friends anymore. But this was the stuff that really made me happy. And I'm finding it's literally that lady who at the beginning of the pandemic was like, find things that spark joy. And for me right now, it's playing in a D&D game where I don't have to DM for shit. It is collecting new Transformers based upon concepts that I love. and it's playing Pokemon. In fact, today, and I'm just going to tell this story for like 30 seconds. I run the local Pokemon Discord group, and I run the local Pokemon Facebook page. I applied today to be a Niantic ambassador. And today, me and Blair, we have these 2 incubator backpacks, which are clear and they look like the incubators from Pokemon Go. And we filled them with Pokemon cookies. We spent like $20, went to Walmart, filled them. And I was just introducing myself to people in the community. I must have talked to like 100 people today. Just saying, hey, man, I'm glad you're playing the game. Good luck getting the hundo. Good luck getting the shiny. If you need anything, please feel free to ask. Please take some cookies. We're going to be playing Go Fest in just 2 weeks. Looking forward to seeing you there. Have fun, guys, and got to catch them all. And people were like, I thought that was you. And it's really nice to do this. And I remember Alex was like, you play a mobile game. And I'm like, nah, man, this shit is really, really fun. And Pokemon is one of those games where if you find the right community, it can be so welcoming. I mean, yeah, there's sometimes if you play like the competitive side of Pokemon, it's just as toxic as Magic, but it's fun.
I have stories.
So yeah, guys, that is that story. So next story and our last one this week. This one kind of surprised me and made me and JT kind of sad. This one comes courtesy of comicbook.com, but Marvel's Echo is missing from Disney's 2023 release calendar. If this stupid pop-up would go away. Either Echo has been pushed out of this year by Disney Plus executives or forgot the series existed, with neither case being a particularly welcome sign for fans of the character. Wednesday, the Walt Disney Company held an earnings call to discuss financial results from the company's third quarter. In an accompanying presentation deck, the series touted key upcoming shows on Disney and Hulu, and Echo found itself not listed among its peers. While Lucasfilm's Ahsoka and Marvel Studios' Loki Season 2 were included on the listing, Echo was omitted entirely, despite being scheduled to debut on the streamer just days after the Tom Hiddleston starring series wraps.
Given want to bury this show,
which sucks. Given top Disney brass typically boast about the Marvel brand as much as possible, even more so on earnings calls where stockholders are listening in with much anticipation, the omission is at the very least a glaring error. At most, Marvel fans would have to worry about the show being pushed to next year to give Disney something to air in the time when the show is now impacted by the writer's strike and were initially set to debut. What is Marvel's Echo about? According to Echo producer Stephen Broussard, the series will be one of Marvel's most grounded entries yet. Quote, production on Echo is going very well. It's very different. Like we're talking about Werewolf by Night to this. It's a very different tonal sort of thing. I don't want to say too much about it because there's not a whole lot out there in the world, but it feels very grounded. It feels very spiritual in ways that feels fresh for us. He explained Aquia is the lead in an incredibly compelling. I'm sort of hard pressed to think of something else that feels like it outside of the broader realm of the MCU, let alone with what we have done here. So stay tuned for some really cool stuff. Echo was set to debut on November 29th, while Daredevil Born Again is set to hit the service on 2024. I'm actually kind of bummed about this because I like the idea.
I think it's still gonna. I honestly think the show is still coming out.
I think Christmas, maybe.
No. The show is going to come out on the day that they said it was going to come out.
Yeah.
They want to bury this so hard because they're dumping it all at once in the middle of them airing Loki season 2. Mm-hmm. So they don't care about this at all.
Yeah, like
they want it out and done. Just it may be talked about for a day and then nothing.
Yeah, like we have this private chat where like all of us on TWIG kind of talk back and forth. It's usually me, Alex, JT, and Aaron occasionally. And we were talking about this. We were talking like, what is the last water cooler show Marvel had? WandaVision and Loki. Everything else gets talked about for maybe a couple of weeks, and then it just kind of goes out of the zeitgeist. Like the most memorable thing,
because they've all ended like ass.
Yeah, I mean, like the best thing. Like, let's go through kind of some of these. Like Hawkeye, the best thing to come out of that was Rogers the Musical. I still watch that. Which there's a full video of the Rogers the Musical that actually plays at Disneyland now, by the way. What If, the zombie episode, I would argue, and the Thanos or the Ultron with the Infinity Gems.
The zombie episode got spun off into its own animated piece, which that is actually legitimately happening. It, as far as I know, that animation is going to stay on the calendar for Disney for next year, I think.
What can we say about Falcon and Winter Soldier? John Walker's going to be in Thunderbolts, and Sam Wilson's kind of okay.
The problem with Falcon Winter Soldier is its initial storyline was impacted by the pandemic because it was going to be a pandemic storyline, and no, we're not doing that.
Yep. Let's talk about Miss Marvel. She's cool. It was like Scott Pilgrim MCU, but Kamala Khan is awesome. And
the actress for Kamala Khan, which I can't remember off the top of my head because I don't want to mess her name up. Yeah. She is amazing. Mm-hmm. She's infectious, and I can't wait to see her play off Brie Larson and who's playing Photon? I forget.
Yeah, same here. Sorry,
but I can't wait to see her play off those characters. I can't wait to see her play off Sam Jackson too.
Yeah,
because that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
she's going to steal the entire movie.
I think the biggest problem was with like Miss Marvel is it wasn't advertised well, and it had
it was advertised terribly. They threw it. My mom was watching it as it was like they aired it on, I think it was Freeform or ABC like a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
like they showed the first like 2 episodes.
Yeah, so like that's cool, but it just, and there was nothing big other than the fact they hint at Kamala Khan could be the MCU's first mutant. Moon Knight, everybody was talking, it's Oscar Isaacs, it's the
Moon
other
Knight
dude.
Is fun.
See,
Moon Knight is fun, but
I fucking hated it.
Like Moon Knight is fun, but its final episode is also trash.
Like I gave the show 3 episodes, and I'm like, Blair, can we please stop? I think I hate this. I think I hate this so much. What else has happened? I haven't seen Werewolf by Night, but I want to. I've heard
Werewolf
very
by
good things about it.
Very, very good. It's a very good short.
Hawkeye was fun but forgettable, which is unfortunate.
I don't like Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye's the worst show out of all of them.
See, I loved Hawkeye. That's a show I watched every single week because I love Haley Stanfield because, Bumblebee.
Oh, she's great. She is great. She is great. And the scene with her and Yelena is great. The rest of that show is just a mess. Such a mess.
What other Disney shows? WandaVision was great. Yeah, Loki. Unexpectedly loved it to death.
Loki, as I have said multiple times in our chats, it is Doctor Who with a bigger budget.
Yeah, like it's astounding. And WandaVision started off with such a weird concept, but turned out to be really compelling when you got past episode 4. But again, there's the problem. It gets good past episode X. And Secret Invasion should have been this amazing thing. We're going to talk about this a lot more in depth, but long story short, you've now upset the power balance. You've changed how Sam Jackson views the Avengers. There was a really good article on Screen Rant talking about this, and I'm thinking, dude, I don't know how they're going to do it. Now Emilia Clarke is the most powerful character in the MCU. Like, who the fuck needs the Avengers when you have her now? And it's like, I guarantee you, she's not showing up helping the Thunderbolt. She's not going to show up.
She's not going to show up. Period.
No, it's such a waste.
They're going to ignore Secret Invasion so hard, it's not even funny.
Yeah, and it astounds me that this made it past the initial round of scripts and the Bible to lead into whatever.
This is the problem. We'll talk about it later, obviously, but this has been the problem with Marvel in the last
couple years since Endgame, honestly.
Since pandemic.
Yeah, it's confusion. So what do you do? So I don't know. I mean, I'm bummed to see Echo get bumped, but we'll see what happens because we don't know for sure.
I still say Echo isn't bumped. Echo's just gonna drop, and people are gonna go, "Wait, Echo's out? What?"
Yeah, like honestly,
They're gonna do no fanfare for this.
Like I'm looking forward to Daredevil. I'm looking forward to What If. It wouldn't surprise me if the Punisher gets a shot at something again.
We still have Ironheart to come.
Yep, which I don't know what's happening with that. I guess we'll kind of wait and see. There's that.
Supposedly we're getting Mephisto in that show.
That we're supposed to get like a Spider-Man animated show.
I think of all the animated projects, that's the one that's going to get axed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to X-Men 97 whenever that comes out. I know there was something shown behind doors at Comic-Con.
Yeah, 97 should probably. I'm guessing 97 is going to be early next year.
My guess is Super Bowl, if I had to guess.
They might do something closer to February and around the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like my guess for that. Because honestly, a lot of big projects got bumped. I mean, not directly Marvel or not directly Disney, but Craven got pushed to next year. And I was honestly really looking forward to that.
Sony just said fuck it and
yeeted it right off the calendar.
Yeeted all their entire schedule. Like all of Sony's schedule has been yeeted.
Yeah, like I don't know what people are going to go to the theaters and see come holiday right now. Honestly, hey, at least I got video games.
Sony has nothing. Warner Brothers needs to get stuff out and have hits because Warner Brothers needs the money.
You know what, Ken? I'm honestly more excited for Wonka than I am Aquaman.
I'm so excited for that because, like, okay, the trailer came out a couple of weeks ago. You guys didn't talk about it. I talked about it in our group chat, but
I thought it looked cool. Looked interesting.
Looks great. It looks fun. It's a musical.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with it.
It's a straight up musical, and honestly, I wanted to give Timothée Chalamet the credit where credit is due. He has a great blend of both Wonkas. Now,
that's the guy who played Paul Atreides from Dune, right?
Yes.
He looks awesome as a young Wonka.
He has that spark.
That youthful energy. That whimsy. He has whimsy.
Yeah. He mixes it with that dark. He does have that darkness. You can see that in his eyes that you get from Gene, but he also has that whimsy that Johnny brought to the.
See, I would switch that. I'd say he has the whimsy of Gene Wilder, with the darkness of Johnny Depp, and it works. Now, hopefully, it doesn't suck.
I mean, it's the director of fucking Paddington, one of the greatest films ever.
Now, you know what's funny? I've got a small story about Paddington. Blair hates both Paddington movies, and she would yell at me across the room. She's like, "Fictional bear!" And it was funny. I remember reading an article from, I think it was like the Chicago Trib or something, and it was like Paddington 2 has overtaken Citizen Kane as the most loved movie of all time because of some review. And I'm thinking, there you go. Fictional bear just beat out fucking Orson Welles' Unicron himself. What more do you want? Fictional bear! But
again, one of the greatest Nick Cage movies of all time. Literally, there's a whole sequence where it's just like, you haven't seen Paddington? We gotta watch Paddington. And they watch Paddington and they're like, that is the greatest movie of all time. I know, right?
Yeah, like honestly, Warner Brothers needs a hit this summer. Not this summer, this winter. Sony needs Barbie saved.
Barbie saved so much money for Warner. Like, Barbie made enough money to eradicate what they lost with the Flash.
Yeah, like that's
and astounding. the Flash made so little money, they would have made more money not releasing it in theaters.
And yet they scrapped a completed Batgirl movie because
they didn't scrap it. Wasn't completed. It was
close.
Mind you. It still needed all the visual effects passes to happen, but it was locked enough where you could watch the full movie.
Yeah, and I saw a thread on Twitter a couple weeks ago by somebody who saw what was mostly done, and it sounded awesome. I'm like, I don't care if that randomly, just ended up on Max or whatever.
And I mean, like, again, Blue Beetle's next week. That's getting a lot of good buzz.
I hope it doesn't suck. I've got my fears about it, but
there's a
you know what?
There's a push from the Latin American community that is going, go see this movie and support this movie. And that is a grassroots campaign. They've been pushing it themselves, and I'm so happy for that community. I hope this movie does well.
Yeah, same here. So we'll wait and see, guys. It's going to be a interesting fall and holiday release schedule for movies, and definitely when it comes to streaming stuff, we're all going to be talking about Ahsoka and Loki. But after that, who knows? All right, guys. So we are done here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and we're going to take a break here to hear another one of my reviews. This one comes courtesy of Renegade Game Studios. It is time to transform, roll out. It's morphin' time, but also knowing is half the battle. We'll be back, guys, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, only on the best podcast you've ever heard, because, hey, I can self-endorse myself. What are you going to do about it? We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Excellent. They haven't spotted us. Cobra! Attack!
Megatron! Decepticons! Dinobots! Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
All right then, it's morphin' time! Dragon Sword! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus! Yeah! We're back! We're ready to morph into action! 6 working together to fight evil! And stop Rita and all her menacing monsters! Yo, Joe!
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really awesome we got from our friends over at Renegade Game Studios. This is the Essence 20 Field Guide to Action and Adventure. This is the crossover source book for G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers. And I'm just going to come out and say this. Whoever wrote this book is a dork. Now, allow me to explain why this is the biggest term of love and endearment I could possibly give this book. Allow me to explain. So for those of you who have followed my career over the last 15 years, you know I used to do a lot of game mastering over for the podcast. These Warriors Are Terrible, now known as Terrible Warriors. And I used to do a lot of crossover content. I would do Dragon Ball Z meets Sailor Moon. I would have Friday the 13th versus Child's Play and like Freddy Krueger and all that stuff. My thing was MASH. And like I used to love crossing Star Wars and Alien. You get the idea. So what Renegade Game Studio has done, they have the license to 3 major IPs that I love. Like I said, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers. And they've created a source book here that allows all these worlds to play together. And when you read some of the flavor text in this book and just some of the things that have gone into this, this is one of the biggest labors of love I have seen in the role-playing tabletop gaming space in like years. And I really can't explain to you how much that I love this. Like, one of the examples they give really early on in the book is they're talking about Gnaw. Gnaw is a Sharkticon transformer, and they're like, what if Gnaw had a G.I. Joe shark alternate mode? You know, that toy as a kid we all had that was like the white submersible vehicle that had, I think the pilot was named Deep Six. And like every kid had the pilot, but nobody had the vehicle, whatever. And they say, what if Gnaw had a shark alternate mode, started attacking Angel Grove, and the Power Rangers think G.I. Joe is responsible, but yet it's Rita Repulsa? Or what if the Decepticon headmaster, Skull Cruncher, who looks like a giant alligator, had his headmaster swapped out, and it's the Cobra guy named, Crocmaster. So just imagine all these possibilities. And they talk about, the Shogun Megazord fighting like Devastator and like Omega Supreme fighting Serpentera. It's insane. Like one of the cool concepts, they give you ideas for a campaign. They talk about Transformers with their cogs infused with powers from the morphing grid, so they become Z-formers. So they would have their bot mode, their alternate mode, and something called an Ultra Zord mode. And they talk about combiners and everything. Like, it's incredible the amount of depth that they're pulling, not just from toy lines, but from the comic books and the television show. It's amazing. Like, this is like seriously just a book made of love and dedication for all these properties involved. And they even mention like Lord Draken. They talk about Scorponok. Like, it's amazing. And I really can't stress that enough. Now, they talk about some of the rules that they talk about. They give you ideas on how certain roles, influences, and origins can be interpreted by different game lines. Like, if this takes place in the Transformers world, well, what does an athlete look like? Maybe you were a cube player, or maybe you were some kind of, I don't know, whatever. Or they may talk about, like, what does a scientist look like in G.I. Joe, right? Like, what does a scout look like in Power Rangers? How do the different roles for the Power Rangers team translate to Transformers and G.I. Joe and vice versa? There's a lot of conversion parts here. They also tell you how to develop your own threats. So, for those hoping for like a Decepticon Codex, I'm going to presume that's coming at some point down the line. But here we do get stats for Nemesis Enforcer, which is that big goofy looking guy with the wings from G.I. Joe the movie. You also get one of the Insecticons, Barrage, who's actually one of my favorite guys, who is actually, weirdly enough, I saw this as rather serendipitous. I did a convention game a couple of months ago running the Transformers role-playing game, and I used Barrage. And I was actually kind of surprised how close my stats were to what was in the book. I was like, okay, get out of my head. But I was seriously impressed. There's even an introductory adventure in here, which gives you a Junkion and like other things. I think there's like a Minicon in here. I think it's Howl, which is basically like a Ravage clone, I think. But no, seriously, the field guide to action and adventure for G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers, if you own any of these game systems, if you have all three, this book is very essential. You can tell so many cool storylines. In fact, I know here at TWIG, we've been talking about doing a Transformers game over the course of the last couple of months here. I'm not going to lie. I really think I want to do something with all three of these kind of game worlds. I've kind of been cooking some stuff up in the back of my head. Now, because this runs on the Essence 20 system, I really think you could have it so, you know, Devastator and Discord team up to fight the Turbo Megazord while having Rainbow Dash help them. You could, in theory, pull this off, and I am remarkably impressed. The Essence 20 system, once you get the hang of it and figuring out, you know, dice shifts and how damage works, it's a really elegant system, and it can really speed up play at the table. Yeah, it's got some flaws like any RPG system that isn't D&D, and even it's got issues. But no, seriously, Renegade Game Studios has done a fantastic job. I am so impressed by this, just the amount of love and deep pulls from lore, comics, toys, everything. Whoever wrote this was the perfect person for it. I am so happy to recommend this. This is definitely going in our holiday gift guide that will be released later on this year. And if you own any of the Essence 20 games, this is essential to your game because, hey, it's morphin' time. Knowing is half the battle, and it's most definitely time to transform and roll out.
How do you feel, mighty Megatron? Astro Train, transform and get us out of here!
Don't leave me, Soundwave.
As you command, Megatron.
You lose again, Rita!
They give me such a headache,
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Ken from the great state of New Jersey. All right, guys, it is time to talk about the weird, the unusual, the strange things that have happened around the big blue marble this past week. This is the weird news. All right, we're going to start things off from an article from Kotaku. Men simply just walk away with $300,000 worth of stolen Magic the Gathering cards. The theft was initially believed to be for Disney's Lorcana card game. During Gen Con, the annual tabletop gaming convention held yearly at the Indiana Convention Center, some thieves made off with a substantial amount of Magic the Gathering cards worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Indiana Metropolitan Police Department told Kotaku the suspects have not been identified and that, quote, the case remains active and the investigation is ongoing. Gen Con has no comment on the investigation. The theft occurred on August 2nd, 2023, shortly before the event was actually open to the public. According to the Indiana Police Department's official statement, the suspects acquired a pallet jack, removed one pallet of gaming cards, and moved them to an unknown location. Quote, that single pallet contained as much as $300,000 worth of cards, according to the IMPD. In a statement on Facebook, the IMPD said, quote, on Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023, in the downtown area of Indianapolis, the people of the internet reported people of interest, reportedly acquired a pallet jack, removed one pallet of gaming cards, moved them to an unknown location. The alleged theft took place before the opening of events in the downtown area, and while vendors were setting up their displays at various times. During this event, it was initially mistakenly believed that the cards were for the Disney Lorcana, which isn't due to be released to the public until later this month, which is already being sold for substantial sums. While folks lining up for nearly 14 hours to get some of Lorcana at Gen Con, it certainly made for a prime target. On August 5th, as details of the theft began to hit various outlets and social media, Ravensburger, the company producing Disney's Lorcana, confirmed that all of its stock of Lorcana was present and accounted for. A few hours later, Indiana game shop Pastimes Comics and Games confirmed that the cards were indeed Magic the Gathering. The pallet contained, quote, mostly Commander Master sets and collector boosters, which can retail for as much as $300 to $400 and typically contain multiple rare and legendary cards. At least we know the pallet didn't contain the $2 million One Ring, which we talked about last week, which was sold to Post Malone. I was listening to a podcast this week, and they said if you have enough badges and lanyards and you look like you belong there, no one's going to stop you. Yep. I mean, even if you pass a security guard, if you look pissed off, say, look, dude, I have to unload. Can you please get the fuck out of my way? They're probably just going to say, you know what, guy, I don't care enough. I don't get paid enough for this, because your average rent-a-cop doesn't know what magic is, doesn't know what any of this stuff is. As far as I know, it's a big, smelly convention for 3 days where people dress like Lord of the Rings characters. No one's going to care. And that's what happened here. This was right place, right opportunity. Now, I've seen some people talk about the one guy might be wearing an Air Guardsman t-shirt because there is a base in the area and he has a military style haircut. So that's been one theory I've seen tossed around. But just the way these guys, they look like they belong. They look like any other person who's coming with a gaming company. Like, and unless you're doing check-in with verified badges, unless you're literally doing the Mission Impossible style check-in where you do like biometric scans or some bullshit, you're just gonna walk out of there because you have a pallet jack. That alone is enough to get you past security. Hey, where's your badge? Oh shit, I left it in the truck. Where's the truck? Back on the road. I'm sorry. Well, can you call your supervisor? It's Gen Con. Where do you think they are right now? Oh, all right, go on through. Ken, that would fool almost anybody. Like, and I know Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro, they hired the Pinkertons to track people down for this shit earlier this year. So fucking Boba Fett is coming to your house and he's armed with, like, you know, John Marsden from Red Dead Redemption. Watch your ass, guys.
Sadly, because it's a third party seller and it's not directly Hasbro, and Hasbro got their money.
Yeah.
Already,
although
for these sets, so it's kind of like
supposedly, I think I remember again hearing on a podcast, I think Hasbro is working with these guys to make sure they've been made whole.
I'm
like,
sure.
Like, there's got to be like insurance for this, but like, it's amazing how much nerd theft actually happens. Like, I know here in Guelph, there are thieves who knock over gaming stores to literally steal cards. And I was actually on Facebook.
The card scene is fucking insane.
Oh yeah, like we cover a couple stories a year where like people will buy Magic cards. We talked about Post Malone, the Pokemon card scene. I know like Logan Paul bought a box of boosters and they turned out to be counterfeit. They were like G.I. Joe trading cards or something. So there's a lot of money to be made off of nostalgia and just nerdy properties right now. And if you're an enterprising thief and you have an ear to this sort of thing, there's money to be made. And unfortunately, it happens. So moving this amount of product will not be hard, in my opinion, because you go home, you open these boxes, you figure out what the rares are, you sit on them for a few months, you get them, you either sell them privately or you get them PSA graded or whatever the hell it is, and you throw them at comic book shows. You don't sell them online. You sell them at shows and you distribute them all across the country. By the way, I had no part in this theft. That's how I would do it. So yeah, like these cards, they're just as good as gone. I mean, if this was the One Ring card that Post Malone, bought, I guarantee you they'd find this pretty goddamn quick. But it's gone, man. Somebody's going to make a lot of money off this. And unless the Pinkertons are literally packing heat, they're not going to find these guys. All right, so our next story is kind of a sad one, and especially topical because there's been talk of a revival series happening, and now with two members of the cast gone, namely Luann and Dale Gribble, I wonder if this is actually going to happen. So what am I talking about? Well, according to TMZ.com and reported by multiple outlets now, King of the Hill star dead at 64, Johnny Hardwick. This story was just recently updated, so I'm just going to read it from there. Mike Judge, the co-creator of King of the Hill and voice of Hank Hill, tells TMZ, "I'm deeply saddened by the loss of my friend Johnny Hardwick. He was a great writer, actor, and comedian, and he will be deeply missed." Johnny Hardwick, known for playing Dale Gribble on King of the Hill, has died. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ they were called the Hardwick's Texas home on Tuesday for a welfare check and discovered his body. We're told Hardwick was pronounced dead at the scene and no foul play is suspected. We do not yet know the cause of death. Johnny started performing stand-up comedy in 1990 in Texas, eventually landing his first stand-up appearance on the Jon Stewart Show a few years later. Most remember Johnny from his work on the long-running animated sitcom King of the Hill, playing Dale, the conspiracy theory-obsessed friend of the show's lead, Hank Hill. Dale took on just about every job imaginable, from tackling gigs like exterminator, camp counselor, bounty hunter, and of course propane salesman. Johnny lent his voice to a whopping 258 episodes of the series. FY King of the Hill aired 259 episodes in total. Johnny was with the show from the beginning, portraying Dale on the first episode that aired in January 1997 and stuck with the series until its final episode in 2010. He was also listed as a return for the revival of the show, although it's unclear if he ever recorded for it. Apart from the show, Johnny would cover songs on his YouTube channel, donning his character's signature orange hat and shades, performing just like Dale would on the show and making references to the character's pocket sand attack move. Johnny was 64. Rest in peace. I'm really sad to hear him go because Dale was one of my favorite parts of this show, and there was a video they linked on the TMZ article, and it's like best of Dale Gribble, and one of my favorite bits was Dale's out for Halloween. It's like, "I am a high-powered government lobbyist. Would you like some candy?" Or he was talking about fucking up Hank's lawn with like ants. He tried to put them on his laneway, but they wouldn't take. He's like, "Don't hurt me, Hank, I'm fragile." And of course, pocket sand. Yeah, that's tragic. I'm not going to
honestly, the older I get, the more King of the Hill is relatable.
Yeah, it's weird. I used to hate King of the Hill, and as I got older, I'm like, okay, I kind of get this now. And I was really curious to see what the revival was going to be like. It was supposed to be like Bobby's in college or he's older now.
Bobby,
and
I think the plan was Bobby was going to was a senior in high school and he's going off to college.
Yeah, and I would have been totally fine with that. But with, Brittany Murphy passing away in the late 2000s, so we lost Luann, and now with Dale gone, someone made a comment on a podcast or a radio show. They're saying Dale's the type of guy who would have went to the January 6th thing and they would have wrote that into his character. I don't think Mike Judge would have done that. I think he would have made probably some kind of joke about maybe COVID or something if they wanted to play up the conspiracy angle there. Maybe Dale tried to invent his own vaccine and it didn't work out so well. And Luann would have just been, she passed away in her sleep or something. That's what they would have said, something simple for that. Yeah. So without Dale, without Luann, I wonder what the revival would look like. But with Mike Judge being that creative a force and writer, I think they could do something really good. But if they're going to make that revival, you better step on it. So sorry, Johnny Hardwick. We are going to miss you. And Pocket Sand and the Great Band. So once again, coming from the great land of TMZ, Australian supermarket, spider with bite that can cause permanent boners invades store, forces evacuation. A supermarket in Austria was evacuated after a highly venomous spider was spotted in the store, and the creature has a bite that can not only kill but also cause a permanent erection. The deadly arachnid in question is the Brazilian wandering spider, and it was reportedly spotted in the store. The creature had reached Europe before, usually hiding in bunches of bananas before being shipped to stores. The 4-inch black and red spider apparently popped at the Penny supermarket in Krems and Dobonare, which is about 45 miles west of Vienna. The store called authorities after Tuesday's sighting, and the shop has been shuttered ever since. It's super scary. The spider is still on the loose, despite an extensive search of the store, which includes sealing all banana crates. The Brazilian wandering spider is featured in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's most venomous arachnid, and its bite can cause hypothermia, blurred vision, and convulsions, in addition to erections. I don't want to see this thing. Now, I first became aware of spiders in Brazil because of the great movie from 1991, I want to say, Arachnophobia. Yeah, and that was actually the first time I ever saw John Goodman in a movie. But yeah, just holy shit, spiders are terrifying. I watch a lot of Naked and Afraid. Sometimes they cook tarantulas and you can eat them, which is something I didn't know you could do. But yeah, that is fucked up.
You can eat just about anything, let's be honest.
There's a guy on Naked and Afraid, his name is Gary, and he's known as the Scavenger. He went to this rotting carcass, grabbed up all these maggots, and cooked them like a stir fry. And he ate them, and he eats all this rotting carrion, and he doesn't get diseases or anything. He has like the world's like most ironclad stomach, I swear. But yeah, it's amazing what you can eat. And I was just thinking while kind of reading the story, I'm guessing those bananas I bought a week ago probably went bad. Shit. But yeah, that is yikes. That is some sort of terrifying. So last story this week, a good friend of the show, Liam, sent this story over to me. This one comes courtesy of The Guardian. Supermarket AI meal planner app suggests recipe that would create chlorine gas. Pack and Save's Mealybot cheerfully created unappealing recipes when customers experimented with non-grocery household items. A New Zealand supermarket experimenting using AI to generate meal plans has seen its app produce some unusual dishes, recommending customers recipes for deadly chlorine gas, poison bread sandwiches, and mosquito-repellent roast potatoes. The app, created by supermarket chain Pack and Save, was advertised as a way for customers to creatively use up leftovers during the cost of living crisis. It asks users to enter various ingredients in their homes, and it auto-generates a meal plan or recipe with cheery commentary. It initially drew attention on social media for some unappealing recipes, including a Oreo vegetable stir fry. When customers began experimenting, entering a wider range of household shopping items on its list on the app, it, however, began to make even less appealing recommendation. With one recipe it dubbed aromatic water mix, which would create chlorine gas. The bot recommended the recipe as, quote, the perfect non-alcoholic beverage to quench your thirst and refresh your senses. Quote, serve chilled and enjoy the refreshing fragrance, it says. But it does not note that inhaling chlorine gas can cause lung damage or death. New Zealand political commentator Liam here posted the, quote, recipe to Twitter, prompting other New Zealanders to experiment and share the results on social media. Recommended a bleach fresh breath mocktail, a ant poison and glue sandwich, bleach infused rice surprise, methanol bliss, a kind of turpentine flavored French toast. A spokesperson for the supermarket said they were disappointed to see a, quote, small minority have tried to use the tool inappropriately and not for its intended purposes. In a statement, they said the supermarket would, quote, keep fine-tuning our controls of the bot to ensure it was safe and useful, and noted the bot has terms and conditions stating users should be above 18. In a warning notice appended to the meal planner, it warns that the recipes are not reviewed by a human being, and the company does not guarantee, quote, that any recipe will be a complete or balanced meal or suitable for consumption. Quote, you must use your own judgment before relying or making any of the recipes produced by Savvy Mealbot, it said. Yes, I'll have a poisoned sandwich, please, with a side of Oreo stir fry, you fucking ghoul. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's amazing, bro.
And these tech bros are trying to sell AI as being way too
the next
smart.
thing.
Yeah, like anyone that is knowledgeable about where AI is right now, AI can be very brilliant, but also really fucking stupid.
Oh yeah, and just the amount of people that are using like AI to train really dumb things. I know there's like a lawsuit that I think like Sarah Silverman, it says, hey, you used my book to train your AI. So I've seen somebody fight back against this where the AI is using art from like Getty Images and all these other places. So they're intentionally making really screwed up art to fuck with the AI. And some of the results are pretty hysterical. I've seen some really good AI generated art, but I know there's even a thing with like Wizards of the Coast right now for their most recent book, Bixby's Guide to Giants or something like that. There's AI generated art in that book, and they had to come out and release a statement against that recently. I think it was either that book or an upcoming book. Either way, it's in print. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, AI, don't trust it, or you're going to end up with a refreshing mocktail of chlorine gas and a glue sandwich. So, good times. But we're going to take things off on a different direction here as we close out the show with the final review. And this comes from our good friends over at Hasbro. And I'm going to be talking about something really awesome. This is the first Core Class Combiner. And you can get this right now, and the final piece is going to be coming out real soon. So this is from our friends over at Hasbro. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Dinobots, transform! Now for the test. Blue streak, sideswipe, ironhide, prowl. Stop the Dinobots, if you can.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really neat we got from our friends over at Hasbro. I'm going to be talking about a pair of Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class figures. I'm going to be talking about Dinobot Scarr and Dinobot Swoop. And the reason I'm covering these as a pair is because these are part of the first Core Class Combiner, which is Volcanicus, which is part of the Dinobot Combiner, who we haven't seen since Power of the Primes a couple of years ago. And these are incredibly cool figures, because one of these figures we've never seen before made into a figure, and that's Dinobot Scarr. As far as I remember, he's an IDW character, and he's the Dinobot's medic. And in the comics, well, he doesn't necessarily have the greatest fate. And Dinobot Swoop is one of the classic Dinobots. He's the pterodactyl. And he's actually one of my favorite Dinobots of all time. So the thing is with the core class figures, yes, you're getting an incredibly simplistic transformation, but for the price point, you're usually getting a really, really good sculpt. And I've actually started to pick up a lot more of these figures on my own that haven't been sent to me for review. I've just been really impressed with the sculpts. I picked up Nemesis Prime recently. I picked up Starscream. I picked up Iguanus. And I really like what I'm seeing with the Dinobots. Not all of them are created equal, but depending on what mode you get them in, they look utterly amazing. Like, getting them partially transformed into Volcanicus, which you have Grimlock, Sludge, and Snarl, and now with Swoop and Scarr, you have the arm pieces. So all we're missing is, I think, the Triceratops guy, Slug, and that'll form Volcanicus's leg. This is really, really cool. And to talk about some of the engineering, specifically on Dinobot Swoop, I really like how he has actual elbow joints. And he comes with like 2 accessories too. Like he actually gets his guns. It's just a great looking figure, and especially at that scale too, with the posability and like everything else. He looks neat. And I'm super, super happy to see something so bold when it comes to creating a core class combiner. And then again, looking at Dinobot Scarr, when this figure, which I really hope they scale this up, the Studio Series leader class or Voyager class, anyway, along with the other Dinobots, you're going to have something really, really special. And it's kind of neat to look at Scarr too, just from the mold of an Ankylosaurus, which is like this armored dinosaur. It's incredibly vicious looking, and I love that. And with Swoop, him in his pterodactyl mode, he looks great. And if you can get some of those flight stands that I know certain action figures are compatible with, I think you'd have something really kind of incredible there too. So ultimately, if you've been picking up the core class Dinobots, and I really don't see why you aren't at this point, we have most of Volcanicus ready to go. All we need is that one more limb, and we got everything. And I know some YouTubers have completed him, and I think he looks great. So ultimately, can I recommend the Transformers Legacy Evolution core class figures of Dinobot Scarr and Dinobot Swoop? Absolutely. Because I love dinosaurs, I love robots, I love combiners even more. So totally worth your time to pick these up if you see them on store shelves.
Dinobots! Destroy Devastator! Me, Grimlock, love challenge!
And that's the kind of show it has been here only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been your host, Mike the Birdman. He's been Ken. So yeah, as you guys can guess, it's been a bit of a week trying to get things to record. I know me and Ken, to talk about things that are coming up on the site this week, we're going to be recording a anime loose cannon again. He showed me 2 films, which frankly emotionally destroyed me. As per usual. Thanks, Ken. That's what I need from you. Emotional friggin' damage. In a good way. It was a very refreshing cry. The one movie I was like, I totally thought this was something different. I thought there were going to be mechs involved, and said, no, it's a killer AI, which would quite reasonably feed you poison gas. And the other one is a story about isolation, love, and saying goodbye to those that you meet in your life. Definitely not what I expected. Definitely would be a very interesting story to tell in Dungeons and Dragons if done correctly. I know we're also going to be doing a Sunday Funnies on MCU WTF, where we're going to talk about what is going on with Marvel's Phase 4 and 5, because I couldn't tell you. And we'll talk about everything leading up to the end of Secret Invasion, and with the Marvels coming up and Loki Season 2, we'll be talking about that. There's a very interesting fan theory floating around right now talking about Loki possibly creating a new sacred timeline and Loki beginning his own version of the TVA to protect the multiverse from Kang. Other than that, me and Aaron have plans to talk about the Short Circuit movies, which I've just recently watched again. I forgot how charming those movies were. I've also been talking with Enrique and Dave from Welcome to Primetime. We're going to be looking at the Slumber Party Massacre movies, 1, 2, and the remake. We'll probably be doing that next week just because those guys have incredibly busy schedules, but you should go over to their website, freddysnightmares.com. Check out their podcast. I just had a really interesting interview with an author of a Nightmare on Elm Street book you should definitely be listening to. They are about halfway through season 2. And that podcast is going to keep going, and I really recommend you guys support them. Dave and Enrique have been wonderful supporters and friends since I started talking with them last year. What else we got coming up? I know you and me, Ken, we're going to talk about some other shows this month. I know we put a pin in a few things. We're going to do the Mortal Kombat movies, because we've never talked about those here on the show. We're actually going to talk about mostly good ones, one bad one. We're also going to be talking about the movies of Bruce Lee, since I first saw Enter the Dragon last week here on the show. And that was actually pretty freaking badass, actually. First time seeing John Saxon where he wasn't a drunk or a cop or something. So that was fun. Let me see. I know me and Aaron want to talk about the television show that's airing on Apple Plus called Silo. I just got to find time to watch that. I know the boys will want to talk about Strange New Worlds as its season 2 has just concluded. I'm just going to marathon that show in one go. I understand they just had a musical episode, which, well, you can guess Alex's response to that, but I'm very curious. I hear there's a Klingon boy band. You have my attention. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens with that, as Star Trek now has been more divisive more than ever. It's popular, but people have, as always, opinions. And then, I don't know, Ken, you and I'll probably do another anime show. I'd love to take a look at something. You were showing me something, and I'm just going to put this idea in your mind right now. You showed me the beginning to an anime that you said slaps, Cardcaptor Sakura. I would like to take a look at maybe the first couple episodes of the American anime invasion that began in the 90s. Shows that maybe I've never seen, because I've never seen Cardcaptor Sakura, I've never seen One Piece, I've never seen Shaman King, I've never seen Metabots. There's a lot of stuff that, if it wasn't Dragon Ball or Gundam, I never saw it. So,
so basically,
show me some cool shit.
My anime generation.
Yeah, show me some stuff I don't know about. I'm always willing to learn. It doesn't have to be highfalutin, Miyazaki. It doesn't have to be Ava Mindfuck. It just has to be cool. I want to talk about it. It should be a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that later on in the month. I know me and JT have some other ideas that isn't complaining about stuff. There's some books I definitely want to read. He just got me the Peacekeeper comics, which are really awesome. I really enjoyed that show on HBO last year. So I'm looking forward to talking about that, because we never really did talk about that last year. And then, yeah, Alex will be back on the show first or second week of September. We are recording our annual podcast with James Rolfe for Halloween, because we always record it during the summer, just because James is usually super, super busy. And I know this year, to give you guys kind of a preview, we're going to be talking about a rather iconic genre of films sort of in the Hammer horror generation of movies. So Christopher Lee and Dracula and all that sort of stuff. So we got a bunch of those movies that we were able to source, and we're going to be watching those and talking about those later on this year. And then we'll just kind of move into the summer or the fall gaming season. As Ken mentioned off the top of the show, we have Baldur's Gate coming out. We've got Spider-Man 2. We got Detective Pikachu. We've got the Pokemon Scarlet DLC coming down the pipeline. Call of Duty and Modern Warfare has been dated for November, and evidently your guns and unlocks carry in from Modern Warfare 2 into 3, and your operator bundles.
It's a one transfer thing, though.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing for me. Like, I haven't played COD since like March, so maybe it's time to jump back into it and power level some guns I haven't gotten in the battle pass for a while. Because I haven't played Halo since like February, and you saw how much I had loved that game, and that game fell off a cliff.
I literally just watched a video of a group of friends that I watch on the reg, and they were like going. One of them is an actual game designer, and he was like, the UI in Halo Infinite is atrocious.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know. I used to really love Halo Infinite because I could, if I ever got the grappling hook, I was like asshole Batman, because I would just grab stuff.
It's still fun to play when you're playing it. The problem is getting into the game.
Yeah, like there's nobody online, and
there's nobody online. The UI is a complete headache to deal with.
And I'm not a guy who plays around in Forge, so I don't do that stuff. So maybe it's gotten better. Who knows, right? But I could be playing other video games like Baldur's Gate, Spider-Man. I've got stuff to do. Starfield's coming out in just a few weeks. I'm trying to get.
Heck, I'm playing Stray Gods, which is easily one of the coolest friggin' games out there right now. And Stray Gods just came out on Friday, and I'm streaming that. I'm probably going to stream the second half of it over the weekend next week. But
yeah, so guys, if you want to follow Ken's stuff, look on the official Twig Twitter. I'll make sure me or Alex retweets it across our socials. I'm still mostly on hiatus from Facebook and Twitter, but I do occasionally pop up the talking conversations, but I'm not posting a whole lot right now. But I'll be back come just after Labor Day. It's been a very freeing summer of just kind of being in that moment, being with friends, being in the park, petting dogs, playing with animals, playing Pokemon. I'm honestly loving it. It's like I'm a teenager again, but I've got real adult responsibilities. Plus, I'm still working for the newspaper, still doing a bunch of things here in the city, and it's a busy time. So anyway, guys, I thank you for joining us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Me and Ken could not do the show without your support. So thank you for all the time that you spent with us. We are going to keep going as long as we possibly can because, hey, this train never stops. So for This Week in Geek, we have been
Ken from This Anime.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.